It's literally a Russian government agency whose mission is promote a positive image of Russian abroad through the diplomacy.
We understand it. If we allow Russia to continue this war as they want, it means that a lot of countries like Russia will try to continue it for dozens and dozens of years, and we won't stop it, never, actually, in our feasible future.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center, and I'm your host, Myroslava Yaremkiv. Russia actively uses Russian culture and cultural diplomacy to spread narratives and ideas favorable to the Kremlin among foreign, particularly African and Latin American audiences. There are three major Russian state-owned or state-affiliated organizations that aim to spread Kremlin geopolitical and cultural narratives and maintain contact with Russians and sympathizers abroad: Россотрудничество, Russian World Foundation, and Gorchakov Foundation. After the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, these Russian cultural initiatives fully supported the goals of the war and became involved in ensuring Russia's presence in the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories, primarily through the provision of humanitarian aid to local residents. Россотрудничество also joined campaigns to spread militaristic propaganda and oppose attempts to cancel Russia or Russian culture. In today's episode, we are going to talk about the methods of work of these institutions abroad, the geography of their branches and representative offices, and behavior after the start of the full-scale Russian-Ukrainian war. If you want to learn more about the subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. Россотрудничество, Russian World Foundation, and the Gorchakov Foundation have over the years functioned as instruments of Russian worldview and cultural expansion, both in the neighboring countries and in quite distant countries. The promotion of Russian cultural projects abroad, the support of various dialects and exchanges, the course to increase the number of Russian speakers through the organization of language training, and the promotion of the resettlement of compatriots to certain Russian regions were the key elements of this expansion, in order to spread views favorable to the Kremlin and the perception of the internal and foreign policy of the Russian Foundation. All these measures conditioned, supported, and accompanied the aggressive revanchist policy of the Russian Federation during the last decades. Alim Aliev, Deputy Director General of the Ukrainian Institute, will talk more about how Russia uses these organizations to expand its influence on the countries of the so-called Global South.
I will start with Brazil. I will start with the Brazilian intelligence agency that discovered a Russian spy operating in Brazil in April this year. And his name is Sergei Chumilov, and he left Brazil after this information from Abin agency. And he was first secretary in Russian embassy. And also he was one of the leaders of Russian cultural diplomacy organizations in Brazil as Русский мир and Россотрудничество. We studied three institutions, Russian institutions: Русский мир, Россотрудничество, and von Gorchakova, that spreaded the Russian narratives through the tools of cultural diplomacy. And I just give a highlights from each of this organization. And I will start with Россотрудничество is the largest, best funded, and most historically looted Russian cultural diplomacy institutions. And it's literally a Russian government agency whose mission is promote a positive image of Russian abroad through the diplomacy. And in our research, we have also examined that Россотрудничество ideological foundations. For example, intense of militarist propaganda activities following the launch of the full-scale invasion abroad, as well as pseudo-humanitarian operations in the temporary occupied territories of Ukraine, in the east and southern part of Ukraine. And also it provides information support for proactively to integrate these occupied territories into the Russian realm. If we talk about Ruski Mir and or Russian World in English, a foundation is a Russian cultural diplomacy institution establishment as a non-governmental organization through closely controlled and coordinated by Kremlin and funded almost from the Russian federal budget. And the foundation has become the organizational embodiment of the ideology of the Russian world, the political concept of Russia's elites that emphasizes the originality and uniqueness of Russian civilization, expressed in the Russian language, culture, and ideology, of course. For several decades, the Russian world concept has been used to justify Russian expansionism in its near, abroad, and globally. And also the activities spread conservative elements of Russian culture, for example, Russian church abroad, and aimed to uniting Russians and Russian sympathize abroad. And Fond Gorchakova, it's a Russian governmental controlled non-governmental organization, sorry for such a calambour, tasked with the developing of disseminating pro-Kremlin foreign policy narratives, both within the country and among foreign audiences, where its academic and educational programs, the fund built a networks of young professionals likely to become the next generation of political elites in Russia, and abroad educating them in Kremlin policy narratives.
Ukrainian government officials emphasize the distinction between the peace formula and the victory plan. They stress that the peace formula is not a peace plan or a negotiation framework with Russia, but rather Ukraine's strategic stance. Officials describe the peace formula as a long-term vision defining the conditions for a just conclusion to the war. In contrast, the victory plan represents Ukraine's perspective on how Western partners can support the country in resisting Russia, focusing on short-term measures to withstand the ongoing battlefield hostilities. Military expert and director of the new Geopolitics research network, Mykhailo Samus, will elaborate more on this.
Ukrainian attempts to end the war, to try to create the conditions to end the war, and actually absolutely right that Ukraine has a basic element of this approach. This is a peace formula, which is actually was approved by approximately 100 countries on the first summit, peace summit. And as I know that Ukraine is going to organize one more a little bit later, maybe even before or kind of in parallel with American elections, which is actually to have a lot of questions why we need to have this formula if Russia actually against it. Of course, Russia against it because it's against Russia's interests and Russia's intentions in this war to destroy Ukrainian nation, to destroy Ukrainian state. So my answer is that Ukraine is trying to get as many as possible countries to support this plan, to support Ukrainian understanding of the, let's say, the modern planet. What should be our planet in the future? Should be this planet with a country like Russia deciding what is going on the continents. Countries like China, for example, or other countries which we are talking like not axis of evil, but axis of resistance to some old Western civilization. So a lot of theories on it. But anyway, Ukraine is trying to present our understanding of the universal principles of comprehensive peace on this planet, not only for Ukraine, but we understand it. If we allow Russia to continue this war as they want, means that a lot of countries like Russia will try to continue it for dozens and dozens years, and we won't stop it, never, actually, in our feasible future. So first of all, this formula is something to support new order with more modern and comfortable order for everybody. And second, the victory plan, it's something which allow to realize or to complete this peace formula, because actually, as I told, Russia, of course, against it, China against it, several countries against it. I'm always mention China. Even we could discuss about the role of China, but from the let's say material point of view, without China, it's impossible that North Korea, Russia, and Iran produce all of these weapons. To be honest, so if you're talking about the victory plan, first of all, it's a strong military component. First of all, because a lot of people asking, how is possible that President Zelensky talking about that? Okay, we could finish this very soon. Okay, how? Only strong military support, and finally, NATO shouldn't protect Russia. I'm not mistaken. Not NATO and the United States now is protecting Russia, not Ukraine, because when we don't have a permission to strike beyond the 300 kilometers in depth of Russia, it's impossible from military point of view to conduct operations. So it's like a miracle glass when the Russian soldiers beyond they strange persons, and we cannot kill them. But when they cross the border, we can kill them. It's impossible because all of military infrastructure of Russia to conduct the strategic operation against Ukraine built on Russian territory. On Ukrainian territory, only operational tactical level, but strategic level, all over infrastructure.
You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!